The hatch of the Sable Wanderer groaned as it sealed behind Ayla and Serene, sealing them in the cramped cargo hold. The airlock's thin hum echoed in the narrow steel confines, muffled slightly by the padded walls and the gray canvas bags that lined the floor. Ayla pressed her back against the cold bulkhead, every muscle trembling from exhaustion and fear. Serene sat cross-legged beside her, knees drawn to her chin, scanning the dim red glow of the emergency lamps above. "Do you think they tracked us?" Serene's voice was barely more than a breath, as though speaking any louder might betray them to invisible ears. Her dark curls framed a face too young to bear such terror. "Not yet," Ayla whispered, closing her eyes for a moment. "The patrol drones rely on heat signatures they assume we're dead, as long as we keep still." She exhaled sharply, forcing herself to meet her sister's gaze. "We just need a plan." Outside the hold, the shuttle's engines whined, a desperate song as they sliced through the cobalt dusk of the atmosphere. The wind rattled the hull plating, like a million tiny fingernails scratching against metal. Ayla tugged on the strap of her leather satchel. Inside lay the most precious cargo she'd ever carried: 3 water cartridges, a hand-measured ration of protein gel, and the battered data chip containing all the coordinates they'd scraped together in their flight from Cherisophore. On the data chip was the promise of sanctuary, a remote mining skiff buried in the sand dunes of Erythra Prime, rumored to have pre-crash emergency supplies. Then, if luck held, they could reach Refuge Station Helios, a self-sustaining dome where they hoped no one would ask questions about their origin. A sudden jolt rocked the shuttle. The cargo hold lights flickered as the vessel shuddered. Serene grabbed Ayla's arm. "What was that?" Ayla listened to the rhythmic vibration of the engines slowing. "They've engaged atmospheric braking," she said, though her voice wavered. "We're coming in too fast." In the cramped blackness, she fumbled for the emergency release valve, twisting it free. A hiss of pressurized air filled the hold. "Get ready." Serene swallowed. Both sisters planted their feet and braced themselves as the floor dropped away. The cargo hold doors slid open with a pneumatic sigh, revealing a roiling swirl of red dust and distant rock formations. Stars died behind them, obscured by the planet's murky upper atmosphere. "This is it," Ayla murmured. She clutched Serene's hand. "Hold on." Below, the endless expanse of ochre dunes rushed up to meet them. The shuttle's grav thrusters flared, but they were misaligned, probably due to damage sustained during the escape jump. The skiff, their only hope, lay just beyond a jagged ridge, hidden in shadow until the last moment. A violent lurch threw them against the far wall. Serene's cry was swallowed by the roar of the engines. Ayla felt her knees buckle. Her head smacked against a beam. Sight blurred, she tasted copper on her tongue. Through the haze, she saw a flash of metallic hull and the skiff's half-buried frame glinting in the red haze. "Almost there," Ayla rasped. She pounded the release bar again. Dust cascaded in through the doors. The shuttle trembled violently. With a final shudder, the engines cut out and the hold depressurized. The whine of air rushing past them was deafening. They hurtled out into the storm. When Ayla finally opened her eyes, the world was silent. The gusting wind had subsided to a mournful whisper. The sisters lay in a shallow crater at the base of the ridge. Their bodies ached, bruised from the fall. Above them, the sky was a burnished copper, mottled with crimson clouds that drifted across the western horizon. Serene stirred first. She coughed, pulling herself up on shaking arms. Are you okay?" Ayla pushed herself upright, tasting grit on her lips. She gave a short nod. "We made it." They staggered toward the skiff, which was tilted at a precarious angle, half swallowed by the sand. Its grav drive vents were clogged, but the hull was mostly intact. Ayla slid her backpack off and began digging at the vents with her multi-tool, each scrape sending showers of grit into the air. Serene stood watch, eyes scanning the horizon for signs of patrol drones. Her hand hovered over the compact pulse, pistol holstered at her thigh. On Cheris 4, they'd lived under constant threat of militia raids. Here the fear was different, but no less sharp. "Stay alert." Ayla said without looking up. If any border patrol comes by, we're dead. Serene swallowed hard, her lips pressed into a thin line. Just hurry. Minutes dripped by like hours. Finally, Ayla pried free a panel, revealing the skiff's energy cells. She grabbed the welding torch in her other satchel and set to work. Sparks flew, illuminating her face in brief orange staccatos. Serene sank to the ground, pressing her palms into the sand. I can't believe we're finally here, she said softly, more to herself than to Ayla. After all we've been through. Ayla didn't answer, but her chest tightened. Their parents, lost in the final months of Karis's civil war, the midnight flight to the orbital dock, the suffocating fear as the authorities closed in. They had escaped death, but poverty was a different kind of cage. At last, the welding torch clattered to the deck. Ayla inspected her work. That should do it. She slid into the pilot's seat and twisted the ignition knob. The grav drive sputtered, coughed, and then hummed to life, lifting the skiff a few inches off the ground. We have lift, she announced, eyes bright despite fatigue. She keyed the comm. Mission control, this is Runaway 1. Requesting clearance to initiate takeoff. Static crackled in response, then a warped voice. Unregistered vessel? Identify and state purpose. Ayla's heart pounded. We're refugees. I'm sorry, but we need shelter. Can you help us? She pressed a finger to her lips. Please. Silence. Then, proceed to the nearest habitat dome. Coordinates. Uploaded. And keep your transmissions off once you arrive. Hope rose in Ayla's chest. She flicked off the comm and turned to Serene. We've got a way in. Serene's shoulders relaxed for the first time since the shuttle launch. She let out a shaky breath. Then let's go home. Ayla set the skiff's course toward the distant glimmer of refuge station Helios. As the barren landscape fell away beneath them, both sisters allowed themselves a moment of quiet triumph. But neither noticed the faint pulse of a hidden scanner, now tracking their trajectory, or the pair of glowing eyes watching from beyond the dunes. The desert held secrets yet, and not all of them wished the girls well. A soft chime echoed through the cockpit as the skiff's grav drive slid seamlessly into the station's docking bay. Ayla's fingers trembled slightly as she guided them down the curved magnetic rails. Serene sat beside her, pale light from the viewport casting her face in otherworldly hues. Beyond the reinforced glass, refugee station Helios loomed vast and serene. A translucent dome stretching over a patchwork of verdant green plots, gleaming solar arrays, and the silver spire of the central command tower. Helios looks alive, Serene whispered, voice tight with relief. Like it's breathing. Ayla gave a half smile. That's exactly what we need. Inside the bay, a cadre of docking drones, sleek, spider-legged automatons, unloaded a drifting cargo pod from a merchant freighter. Their hydraulic limbs clicked and whirred, oblivious to the human drama unfolding in the shadows. With a soft hiss, the bay doors parted, revealing the sprawling interior of the station, a labyrinth of white corridors, polished floors, and diffused daylight courtesy of the dome's photon converters. Stick close, Ayla murmured, keying her ID chip into the override panel. The gate slid open. They stepped out, bags trailing behind, into a world that smelled faintly of ozone and fresh basil. The reception hall was a grand amphitheater of living plants. Hydroponic vines climbed lattice supports, while tube-like planters burbled with aeroponic mist. Colonists and refugees alike milled about. Traders in patched flight suits haggled in low voices. Medical teams in cobalt blue overalls ushered injured. Newcomers through side doors, and children chased holographic butterflies that shimmered across the floor. Overhead, organic fonts displayed status updates. O2 levels 98%, water reserves 72%, population 1,204. A slender ceremony guard, dressed in charcoal gray and generously human in appearance, intercepted them. His gaze was sharp, almost curious, as he scanned their passports and forged credentials through a wrist-mounted verifier. Names? He asked, voice polite but firm. Ayla swallowed and recited their aliases, Mara Zail and Seren Voss, workers from the Vesper mining fraternal colony. The guard scanner beeped intermittently, searching against central registry. Arrival logs don't show your names, he finally said, eyes flicking between them. Which docking protocol did you override? Ayla's throat tightened. Emergency beacon, she explained, voice steady. Limited rations, we were off-grid. The guard's lips twitched. Brave story. He paused, then tapped his communicator. Regent 5 requests your presence in the evaluation chamber. Beyond the nearby archway, 2 doors slid open with pneumatic precision. The sisters exchanged nervous glances, then stepped inside. The evaluation chamber was austere, a circular room with seamless metallic walls, a single hollow table at its center, and a slim metallic chair that folded out from the floor. At the far end, Regent 5 materialized in crisp holograph form, its android face composed of smooth androsteel and subtly glowing ocular implants. Welcome, Mara Zail and Seren Voss, Regent 5 intoned. Its tone was neutral, devoid of warmth. Your clandestine arrival has been noted. You claim refugee status and offer labor. Yet resources here are carefully allocated. What do you bring in return? Ayla closed her eyes for a moment, then produced the small cylinder from her satchel, the Aeon Seed prototype. The runes etched on its surface pulsed faintly as she set it on the hollow table. This, she said, voice firm, is our offering. A soil activator, an Aeon Seed, discovered in the ruins of Karis IV. We've conducted preliminary tests. With proper reagents, it can catalyze biomass generation in barren soil. Helios's green zones could expand tenfold. Regent 5's holographic eyes flared with simulated interest. Soil activator nanites' unverified properties show me empirical data. Serene planted her feet and took a datapad from her pack, loading charts and growth simulations onto the hollow table's projection field. As graphs of exponential plant sprouting appeared, the regent's mantle-like shoulders seemed to incline. Interesting, it said, after a measured silence. Your proposal, if legitimate, accelerates our terraforming timeline by months. However, resource integration requires a mandatory 6-cycle trial under secure conditions. Ayla nodded. We accept your terms. Regent 5 flicked its wrist. The hollow table blinked out and the doors slid open. You will be quartered in Lab Wing 3. Unauthorized personnel are prohibited. Any deviation voids this agreement, with consequences. As the sisters followed a pair of steward drones through whitewashed corridors toward the biolabs, Ayla whispered, We've bought our way in. Serene exhaled, half smiling. And this time we're not running blind. Yet as the lab doors sealed behind them, neither sister noticed the 2 gleaming inspection drones that detached from the ceiling and followed them into the wing. Silent watchers with lenses that promised nothing but scrutiny in the chapters to come. The aseptic glow of Lab Wing 3 hummed quietly as Ayla and Serene stepped inside, guided by the soft whir of steward drones. Long benches lined the walls, crisscrossed by tangle of transparent tubing and glowing reagent vials. Along one side, sealed observation booths housed rows of terracotta planters, each soil sample tagged with a sterile barcode. As the drone sealed the door behind them, Ayla exhaled, tension pooling in her shoulders. All right, she murmured, setting the Aeon Seed prototype on the central work table. Let's show them exactly what this can do. Serene unpacked their portable analyzer, its crystal array flickering to life. We'll need to calibrate the nanite dispersal matrix first, she said, scrolling through a matrix of reaction equations. If we're off by even 0.05%, the activation could backfire, either fizz out or overrun the microbes. Ayla nodded, her fingers dancing across the hollow interface. Begin with the basal culture. I'll prime the seed with the growth compound we synthesized back on Karis IV. She drew a slender vial from her belt, a viscous emerald fluid that pulsed with bioluminescence. This is our wildcard, it's what kickstarts the symbiosis. Above them, the inspection drones hovered silently, their optical sensors fixed on every movement. One recorded data in real time, the other monitored biohazard thresholds. The sisters ignored the mechanical gaze, focusing on their equipment. Minutes ticked by as they injected the nutrient fluid into the seed's intake port, then slid the cylinder into the analyzer cradle. Serene keyed in the activation sequence. Lights glittered across the console as the seed's runes blazed bright blue. A soft hum vibrated through the table. Stability at 72%, Serene reported, squinting at the readout. We needed above 80 to ensure propagation, and below 90 to avoid self-replication runaway. Ayla adjusted the U energy input, increasing the resonance frequency by 0.8 Hz. She tapped her console, and the hum deepened. The runes on the seed shifted to a steady green glow. There, 81.3. Let's move to the soil tray. They shifted their work to a sterile planter filled with inert silicate. Carefully, Ayla extracted the seed from its enclosure and placed it in the center. Serene activated the nano-dispersal array, and a fine mist of microscopic machines settled over the soil like dew. The observation drones pivoted, their lenses tracking every shimmer of the mist. On the holo display, a time-lapse simulation began, root-like filaments branching out from the seed, drawing nutrients and sprouting pale shoots. Within simulated hours, the soil turned rich brown, then burst with green sprouts. Regent 5's voice spoke from the lab intercom, calm, neutral but unmistakably impressed. Initial trial shows 32% growth within 2 simulated hours. This exceeds project parameters. Ayla's heart soared. She glanced at Serene, whose eyes shone with a mixture of triumph and relief. We did it, Serene breathed. For us, Regent continued. Pending contamination analysis and thermal stability metrics, I authorize scaled trials in Biodome 4. You will receive full station support, provided no anomalies arise. Ayla cleared her throat. There is one more consideration, she said, voice steady. The seed's algorithmic code is unique. If Helios grants us unrestricted research access, we can optimize it further, apply it to other biomes, even aerial plankton cultivation. In exchange, we ask for permanent asylum and integration into Station Helios's scientific council. A hush fell over the lab as they spoke the unspoken, their lives and freedom balanced against the promise of abundance. Regent 5's holographic avatar appeared within the room, eyes glowing softly. After a pregnant pause, it inclined its head. Your proposition is mutually beneficial. Terms accepted. Welcome, Sisters of Karis. As the drones retracted, the sisters exchanged a look of cautious victory. They had bargained with an entity of steel and code, and won. Yet beyond the sealed doors, tides of politics and greed swirled, waiting to challenge their fragile sanctuary. In the heart of Helios, their true test was only beginning. For 6 cycles, the hum of the biolab became Ayla and Serene's new heartbeat. Under Regent 5's watchful lenses, they honed the Aeon Seed's code, tuning its nanite dispersal to the dome's Martian-tuned loam, balancing nutrient influx against runaway proliferation. Mornings began with sterile mist sprays and ended in glowing Petri dishes, each one a promise of flourishing green. In return, they ate at the communal tables, slept in quiet quarters, and used the station's med bays to heal scrapes that memory of Karis IV had left raw. When the first emerald shoots pierced the soil in Biodome 4, laughter spread like pollen. Botanists hurried to photograph leaf bud ratios. Hydroponic engineers adjusted humidity inputs. Helios's central dome, once a pocket of trimmed hedge and tidy flower beds, swelled with new life. Vines curled up latticework, ferns unfurled in arching fronds, and even the air tasted richer, heavy with chlorophyll. But outside the glass, politics germinated faster than any sprout. Whispers in the corridors spoke of economic displacement. Graziers fretted that the sisters' seed would swamp their fungi farms. Corporate backers from Nova Aurora grumbled about lost profits. At every council session, Regent 5 defended the Aeon project with clinical detachment. Population growth demands accelerated terraforming. Risk is calculated and acceptable. Yet behind the stoic avatar, The android subroutines logged every descent. Late one cycle, Ayla paused at the mouth of the council chamber, an oval room where sun-filtered beams fell across a ring of chairs. Through the frosted glass she heard hurried voices. "Uncontrolled proliferation," said the first, Galen Truitt of Aurora Agrotech. His tone was sharp enough to cut glass. "If those nanites breach containment, they could overwrite native biomes, damage external domes, even our starship farms." A second voice, soft but insistent, an ecologist named Mira Kress. "We've seen no malfunction in trials. Detaining the sisters would destroy morale and jeopardize every Phase 2 plan." A third, a deep male register. "Priority isn't science, it's survival. The seed's power must be classified. We seal the sisters in quarantine, extract data under duress, then distribute derivatives selectively." Ayla's heart pounded. She staggered back, breath caught in her throat. The door slid shut. Serene lay on her bunk, staring at the lattice of ceiling panels. Ayla barged in, eyes wild. "They're planning to cage us, lock us away after they rip the seed from our hands." Serene bolted upright. "What? How do you know?" Ayla sank onto the edge of the mattress. "I heard them in the council chamber. They call it Phase 2 security protocol. They want exclusive rights." Serene's face drained of color. "But we gave them everything. We saved Helios. And they'll swallow the world's green if it suits them," Ayla snapped. "We have to move first." Silence stretched between them, thick as biogel. Then Serene's eyes brightened with a fierce light. "What are you thinking?" By the next dark cycle, the sisters had a plan. Under cover of the station's oversight blackout, a weekly maintenance window when surveillance grids rebooted, they would steal a sample of the Aeon seed, slip through the maintenance shafts, and reach their skiff hidden in docking bay Theta. That evening, Ayla donned a technician's coverall and affixed a false ID badge. Serene, fingers trembling, clipped a datapad containing the seed's core algorithm to her belt. They moved through service corridors, where bulkheads rattled with distant reactor hums. Each vent grate they passed carried the scent of ozone and the faint tingle of chlorophyll. In the storage lock, Ayla cracked the quantum-sealed container holding the Aeon seed. The runes on its surface pulsed in welcome. Serene's fingers hovered over the pod's internal console as she retrieved a secondary module. A half-dozen embryonic seed cylinders grown from their own code, each a backup. Behind them, a soft click. An inspection drone, reactivated out, of sync with the blackout. Its ocular beam swept across the corridor, zeroing in on the fugitives. Ayla's breath caught. "Go!" she hissed. They darted into the maze of maintenance shafts, metal ladders ringing beneath their boots. Sparks flew as Serene jammed the maintenance door behind them. Above, the drone's alarm began a shrill crescendo. Emerging into docking bay Theta, they saw their skiff bathed in emergency red light. Ayla raced ahead, fists working the panel to override locks. Serene launched the grav drive sequence. As the engines flared, the bay doors thudded open, and Regent 5's visage bloomed on the viewport. Its voice was calm, final. "You cannot outrun outcome, children of Karis IV." Ayla strapped herself in. "We don't intend to," she replied. "We intend to survive." With a roar, the skiff lifted, shedding sparks and dislodged bolts. Behind them, Helios Station's dome blurred into the distance, green jewel turning to dust-muted silhouette. Ahead lay the endless orange plains of Erythra Prime and the promise and peril of a future they would seize on their own terms. A storm of molten dust swirled below the skiff's thrusters as Ayla and Serene broke free of Helios's gravity locks. The hatch slammed shut behind them just as the dome's emergency shields ignited in a final flare of warning beams. Through the cockpit viewport, they watched Regent 5's holographic warning flicker and vanish amid the station's red-lit pylons. Serene's hand hovered over the transmission console. "Should we send a distress call? Ask for help?" Ayla shook her head. "No traces. If anyone's listening, they'll track us right back. We need distance. Fast." She keyed in new coordinates for the remote canyon where they'd first found shelter. Below them, the dunes rolled like amber oceans, and the twin suns, one scarlet, one pale gold, hung low on the horizon. With each passing moment, Helios faded behind a curtain of blowing sand. For the first time in cycles, the sisters allowed themselves to breathe. Ayla steadied the skiff's grav drive, feeling its pulse align with her own. Serene glanced at the Aeon seed cylinder secured in its stasis cradle, one final fragment of their home, destined to plant life where none dared to grow. They landed inside the narrow grotto beneath the canyon rim. The world here was cold, shadowed, and still, an echo of desolation. Together they carried the seed out into the open, placing it carefully onto a flat slab of basalt. Ayla connected the analyzer's probes to the cylinder, and Serene fed it their last vial of priming solution. Soft blue runes blossomed across the Aeon seed surface. Then, in a whisper of nanite mist, the dust at its base began to darken. Filaments like morning moss crept across the rock, sending tiny fissures through the basalt. Within moments, a single sprout burst forth, fragile and luminous against the red sands. The sisters watched in awed silence. Serene reached out, cupping the shoot gently. "We did it," she said, voice thick with wonder. "We really did it." Ayla laid a hand on her sister's shoulder. "This is just the beginning. We have the seed, and we have each other. Wherever life is needed, we'll go." Above them, the sky split into vivid streaks of sunset. Far off, the distant twist of a patrol drone searchlight swept across the dunes, hunting for escapees. But here, in the hush of the canyon, it was as if time had paused, a private moment of hope amid the vast, uncaring universe. Serene closed her eyes and inhaled the chill air, tasting possibility. "What do we call this place?" Ayla smiled, gazing at the glowing sprout. "Karis's Ash," she said softly, named for the planet they'd lost and the life they'd recovered. "May it remind us that even in ruin, something new can rise." As the suns dipped below the horizon, the green shoot pulsed one final time before its glow subsided into steady growth. In the sisters' hearts, a light ignited, an unbreakable vow to carry the promise of the Aeon seed across worlds. And so, with the twin sisters at the helm of their battered skiff and the seed of a brighter future cradled between them, their journey continued. Free beyond the dome, fugitives no more, but pioneers of tomorrow's dawn.